the depths beyond the abyss. Elliot had always been fascinated by the ocean. Growing up, he spent countless summer afternoons at the beach, collecting seashells and staring out at the endless blue horizon. The sea was a mystery, a vast, unexplored world teeming with secrets. So when he landed a position as a field researcher for the Aurora's terraforming mission to planet 4546b, it felt like fate. The goal was simple: gather data on the aquatic life forms and ecosystems of the water world. Elliot wasn't much of an adventurer. He preferred the quiet solitude of research, poring over specimens and data logs in his lab. But when the Aurora crash landed, everything changed. Elliot survived the crash in Lifepod 7, isolated from the rest of the crew. For weeks, he scavenged for resources, setting up a makeshift base near the safe shallows. At first, he marveled at the planet's bioluminescent flora, the strange alien fish darting through the coral, and the soothing hum of the ocean currents. It felt like a dream, until the dream became a nightmare. The descent. It started with the Reaper Leviathan. Elliot had been exploring the edge of the kelp forest in his seamoth when he heard the unmistakable roar. A shadow passed overhead, blotting out the faint sunlight filtering through the water. He panicked, speeding back toward the safety of his base, the beast's shrieks echoing behind him. That night, he dreamt of a massive, coiled figure in the darkness, its glowing eyes fixed on him. When he woke, he could still hear the roar in his ears, but it was different, softer, almost inviting. The next day, while scavenging near the wreckage of the Aurora, he found a PDA. Its logs were corrupted, but one audio file played clearly. "It's down there. I don't know what it is, but it's watching me. It knows we're here. If you find this, don't." The recording cut off with a static screech, followed by a low guttural growl that sent chills down Elliot's spine. The signal. A few days later, his radio picked up a strange transmission. It wasn't like the automated distress signals from other life pods. This one felt wrong. Coordinates, abyss, deeper, help. The voice was distorted, almost inhuman, but unmistakably desperate. Against his better judgment, Elliot decided to investigate. The coordinates led to a trench far deeper than he had ever ventured before. He outfitted his seamoth with depth upgrades and reinforced hull plating, telling himself he'd turn back at the first sign of danger. The journey was harrowing. The vibrant coral and playful fauna of the shallows gave way to the eerie stillness of the blood kelp zone. Ghostly strands of kelp swayed in the current, and the water seemed heavier, oppressive. As he descended further, the water grew darker, the only light coming from his seamoth's headlights. And then he saw it. A massive, ancient structure carved into the side of the trench. It wasn't like the other alien ruins he'd seen. This one was organic, almost alive. Pulsing veins of bioluminescent energy crisscrossed its surface, and a faint humming filled the water. The entity. As he approached the entrance, his radio crackled to life. "Why have you come?" The voice wasn't human, but it spoke directly into his mind. It was deep, resonant, and filled with a terrifying curiosity. Elliot froze, his hands trembling on the seamoth's controls. "You called me," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The entity didn't respond, but the hum grew louder. Against his instincts, he entered the structure. The interior was massive, its walls lined with strange glowing runes. Pools of black viscous liquid dotted the floor, and Elliot swore he saw shapes writhing beneath the surface. At the center of the room stood a monolithic pillar, its surface covered in glowing red eyes that seemed to follow him. The hum became a low chant, a wordless mantra that wormed its way into his mind. "Stay," the voice commanded. "The truth." Elliot's PDA began to malfunction, its screen flickering with corrupted data. Amid the static, he caught glimpses of images, humanoid figures, their faces contorted in terror, sinking into the black pools. The chant grew louder, more insistent. He turned to flee, but the entity wouldn't let him go. Tendrils of shadow coiled around his seamoth, pulling him toward the pillar. Panic set in as he fought against the pull, his oxygen supply dwindling. "Stay," the voice repeated, now more forceful. "You belong to the depths." In a final act of desperation, Elliot activated the seamoth's emergency power boost, breaking free of the tendrils and rocketing toward the surface. But as he ascended, the water grew colder, darker. Shapes moved in the periphery of his vision, elongated, serpentine forms with glowing red eyes. The aftermath. When he finally broke the surface, the sun had set, and the once familiar sky was a swirling vortex of black and crimson. The ocean around him was lifeless, the once teeming shallows now a graveyard of bleached coral and shattered rock. Elliot returned to his base, but it no longer felt like home. The hum followed him, a constant reminder of what he had seen. His dreams were plagued by visions of the abyss, of the pillar, of the entity that waited below. One night, he woke to find the water inside his base rising, black and viscous. The walls were covered in glowing runes, and the chant filled the air. "Stay," the voice commanded, more insistent than ever. Elliot realized then that he couldn't escape. The depths had claimed him. Epilogue. Lifepod 7's beacon was discovered months later by another survivor. Inside, they found Elliot's PDA, but its logs were corrupted, save for one final message. "It's not the Reapers or the ghosts you should fear. It's what's beneath. Don't go into the abyss. Don't listen to the call. And, whatever you do, don't stay."